46 is basically broken up into 3 chapters. You get Jacob's final encounter with God. You get a count of all of Jacob's descendants again. And then you get Jacob's reunion with his son. Jacob, they finally get to Egypt. Jacob pulls the caravan over in Beersheba. He makes an offering to God. This is when God tells him, he makes an offering to him. God speaks to him, and he calls him Israel. This is not what I'm realizing. God only calls him Israel, I think. Because even like his own, like his sons, or I guess his son's going dead, but like he's only referred to as Israel when God's talking to him. Israel pulls over. He wants to speak to the Lord one last time. God says he has no need to be afraid to move his family because God is always with him. You are still going to be a great nation. And he finishes off by saying, Joseph will be the last one to close your eyes when you die. So he says, you're not going to die. You're going to see your son. He's very happy. Says bye to God.
It's beautiful imagery.
Beautiful imagery.
The last one to close your eyes before you die.
How incredible is that? No. You hang on that for a minute.
Haunting.
No.
Your son that you think is dead already.
Yeah, no.
That now is alive as you're dying. He'll be there for
He'll be there. Jacob is at ease. He's much happier, and his family begins a slow march to Israel. Jacob's like 100 and something. Imagine walking across lands. It's insane. Now the story takes a break, and it counts all the descendants of Jacob, which equals up to 66. With the people that are already in Egypt, there will be 70 people in Egypt. Okay. 70 is associated with wholeness and completeness. Jacob and his family arrived in Egypt in a region called Goshen. Jacob arrives in Egypt. Joseph hops on his chariot, rides over in excitement. They hug, they cry, they kiss, they rejoice. It's a beautiful moment. Jacob says he's ready to die.
Now that he's got his boy.
Yeah, my boy, I'm ready to die. Joseph now prepares the family to meet with the Pharaoh. He tells them to tell the Pharaoh that they are lifelong herders. It isn't revealed in the book, but Egyptians have a dislike for shepherds and herders. I don't know why. He might be telling them this to ensure that the people would be tolerated, but not fully absorbed in the pagan Egyptian society. So it's going to preserve their religion or whatever.
It's like he's not giving them an option to get caught up.
You're not going to get caught up in Ra and
because they're not going to give you a chance to.
So
they're not going to fuck with you like that.
No, because you're a shepherd. You're always going to shepherd.
It's not like you're showing up to a new city and you're like, I love this way of life here. Yeah,
yes, I want to be part of you guys. Right. No, they're going to be living on the outside.
He shut that down from the jump.
Exactly.
Made sure the true, because he's here knowing, these guys think, he talks to God.
Yeah, no, exactly. He talks.
These guys are praising crocodiles.
No, it doesn't make sense. No.
It's like, brother, I got the direct line.
Yeah. Don't even worry about it. 46 times, we're on 47. Joseph preps his family for the meeting. He selects 5 brothers to represent the family. When the Pharaoh asks them what they do, they do exactly what Joseph says. They say, hey, we're herders. They also say they want to settle in the town of Goshen, which is on the outskirts, again, to help preserve their religion. They're not going to get fully absorbed with them. The Pharaoh tells Joseph that he could settle there. Joseph will be their patron, so he'll be under their care. So the Pharaoh isn't in charge of them. Joseph is in charge of them. They don't talk to Pharaoh. They talk to Joseph. Joseph talks to Pharaoh. So he's like, you guys can live fine over there. You're under Joseph. The Pharaoh also puts Joseph in charge of his livestock. So the Pharaoh's like, hey, you guys are lifelong herders. You take care of my shit. Jacob then meets with the Pharaoh, and they have a respectful conversation. Jacob blesses Pharaoh. These are these are the Pharaoh who's in charge of Egypt and all of their pagan belief, the Egyptian religion. And Jacob, the head of this new Israelite.
That's why I thought it was weird that you said they weren't going to meet for a second.
These are two titans.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Joseph, it will be the guy, but as long as Jacob's still alive, he's not really the guy.
No, exactly. Joseph is the dude. It's like Abraham, Isaac, Joseph. So it's it's 2 titans meeting. Joseph blesses him. And it's
Jacob.
Yes, Jacob. But I like to say Israel. It just makes things a lot easier.
It does.
Joseph has gotten everything he wants, And he understands that it's only because of God and God's plan, baby. That's all it is.
What I understand.
In other news, terribly, the famine is still going on.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that's happening still. Unfortunately, Joseph is still selling grain to everybody. People are running out of money. It's a long time. It's a long famine. Joseph now says, I'll tell you what, how about you give me your livestock and we'll run it like a mortgage. Pharaoh owns your livestock, but you keep it and you use it, take care of it. But in the end, Pharaoh owns it. People are happy. They go, fine. You own the livestock. We'll give us grain. We stay alive. They kind of have no choice. People now have nothing but their land and themselves. And now they're broke. They're out of livestock. They have nothing left. Joseph goes, how about this? How about you give us everything, including yourself? And you guys will almost be like indentured servants to the Pharaoh. Not slavery. And they do make a point and say, while it's very common for this time for like indentures, for like, you have the main dude, then you kind of just live in the land, you till the land, you make sure everything's cool. But like in the end, I fucking own you.
Yeah.
Yeah. They make a point to say it's nowhere near as bad as the slavery the Israelites will face later on in Exodus. They go, this is common for this time, that Jacob is kind of making them slaves to the Pharaoh. But it's nowhere near as bad as later on when this happens to the Jews.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because new people come in power. They kick the Jews out or whatever. I'm not really sure what happened. We'll get into that. The people are still happy. They're like, fine, whatever. As long as we can eat, as long as we can live. They keep giving the Pharaoh 20% of the top crops, and they thank him for saving their lives at the cost of their freedom. Jacob lives another 17 years in Egypt.
Are they only doing this to be near Joseph? Like, would they have been fine living where they were living?
Jacob?
And his family and all his people?
Joseph wants to move his family into Egypt because he's head honcho now.
But doesn't want them to get swept up in the religion?
Because he still knows, like, hey.
Why does he want them there then?
I don't know.
Why wouldn't they be better off, like, not being indentured servants to Pharaoh back where they came from?
I don't know.
Is this like, because Egypt can't be
Unless,
closer.
do you think it's like he wants to ball out? And he's like, come on, I want to. It's like when someone from the ghetto gets in like the NFL and they're like, I want to ball out now. I want to move my family out of Harlem into fucking Miami.
Do you think he needs Jacob there so that he can talk? Like, does him and Pharaoh say something to each other that makes it make sense that he needs him there rather than leaving him back where he came from?
I don't think so. I think he's just,
because Egypt has to be further away from Israel,
Canaan. Yeah.
Right?
Well, he still says
from where they were.
Yeah. Well, he still said, well, also after this, because Jacob's going to die soon. So he still has his 12 kids. When we get on later, he's going to start appointing, like, he's going to, like, unify, like, the tribes and say, you guys are going to do this, 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 and this. So maybe they were living out in the sticks. Now maybe because they're closer to Egypt, maybe the boys can get out and, like, meet people and, like, branch out and, like, be better. I don't know. Maybe. People are still giving him 20%, whatever. They're happy. Jacob lives another 17 years after coming into Egypt. So he's still kicking. He thought he was on his deathbed. He's still kicking. He's now starting to prepare for death. And he tells his son, bring my body back to Canaan because I want to be buried with Abraham and Isaac. 48, Jacob is on his deathbed. They're really dragging out his death. He's been dying for 3 chapters now. He's lived for 17 years. Joseph comes to his side with Joseph's 2 oldest sons. Jacob prepares to give his blessing to them. And he recalls the blessing he got so long ago. So they recap the blessing he got. You're going to be a great nation, this, that, and the other.
They love to tell it over and over.
A lot of recapping. Jacob claims Joseph's 2 oldest sons as his own. Above his 2 oldest sons, Reuben and Simon. This means that Joseph and his family will get a double portion of his inheritance.
Right.
Yes. They then go on to say he could be thinking of Rachel. It could be still fresh in his mind. Perhaps claiming Joseph's 2 kids as his own is a way to honor her once more. That's what they're claiming is. I think it's horseshit. He's always played favorites. We know exactly what he's doing here.
He's not a great guy.
He's a little slimy.
He's been this guy the whole time.
He's no Isaac. Jacob starts to bless the 2 sons. and he asked Joseph to arrange them in order. There's a little callback because he says to Joseph, he remembers what happened with his dad, how he got his false blessing. So he tells Joseph, who are these kids in front of me? Like, tell me who this is. You tell me. Don't lie to your father. So he tells him whatever. Lots of reminiscing. Lots of being thankful for life and where he's been and blah, 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 blah. It is implied that the older will receive the greater blessing. This goes into the same thing with him and Esau. Esau should have got the blessing. Some shisty things happened. The younger one got the blessing. As he's given the blessing, everybody's bowing. The older, the younger. I guess you give a blessing with your right hand. I don't know what that means. I don't know if they explicitly say that, but this is what is assumed. Nobody notices. He crosses his hands. He gives the better blessing to the younger.
Wow.
In a final shisty.
But didn't God tell, God informed...
It was a prophecy.
For his.
Yes.
So him doing it is just like an homage that
he
no one...
He flipped it.
Yeah, no, he's like the least compelling character so far in the line.
He gives the blessing to the younger kid. He references God as the angel. Could be referencing a future of the Trinity. Jacob asks God to keep the line going through them. You're carrying my line. When Joseph sees that the younger is getting the blessing, he becomes angry and thinks his father made a mistake. Jacob clarifies that this is exactly what he intended and concludes by saying, the people of Israel, I didn't get this, the people of Israel will wish each other well by invoking the success of Ephraim and Manasseh. That's the two kids. Joseph's two kids who had the blessing. So I didn't get that. Chapter concludes with Jacob giving Joseph and his descendants a very specific piece of land in Canaan as a gift.
But Canaan is still just a land promised to them, correct?
Yes.
They've never been...
This is a specific area. Some say it's Shechem. Remember that town? Shechem? That's the one that they went and they fucked up because all the people raped his daughter, Diana, and Levi and Simon went in there. They fucked everybody up. They had everybody get circumcised. And they fucked them up. Remember that? Some say that's this town that they're giving him.
Okay.
That he's saying like, hey, this shit's kind of run down. How about you guys can go populate that again? Don't ask what daddy did over here. But this town's yours, son. 49 is an interesting chapter. He goes through each kid. He has unfinished business, he says.
The Don.
He calls all 12 kids in, and he gives them a glimpse of all of their futures.
Joseph can see the future in his dream. I'm just saying, it's a shitty gift for him.
Yeah, no, exactly.
He does this already.
Yeah,
everyone else is like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly. Jacob is still clinging to life. He wants to settle some unfinished business. He gives his kids specific blessing, some good, some bad. He tells them a piece of their future, and he says each of them will be their own tribe. So this is when he's signifying, like, you guys are the 12 tribes, right? The first three predictions from Jacob are harsh. He holds Reuben, Simon, and Levi accountable for their sins and condemns them decades later. This is when they pillaged the town. They murdered all those people. Neither tribe will come to possess much of the promised land. Levi's line will become priests, which we see with Moses. In contrast, Judah's tribe will become great. The fourth son of Jacob will be the ancestor of most Israel kings and rulers. In fact, the kingship will remain in Judah forever. Jesus, the Messiah, is a descendant of Judah and King David. And will be known as the Lion of Judah.
So is he like the next... Oh, no, Joseph's the next guy.
As
far as the God line. But then Judah still has...
Well, I don't know, because it goes into... Moses is the next, dude. That's where, the Bible kind of carries on through. So
it seems like Joseph's the guy if he's getting dreams from God. No one else is.
Yeah. And I don't really know what happens to Joseph after this. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so he goes into the other kids. I don't really know if you want to read into the other kids. But he saves the best for last, Joseph. He says his people will be fruitful and fight for their attackers in strength of the mighty one of Jacob. Notable Old Testament warriors of such as Joshua, Gideon, Deborah will all be from these tribes of Ephraim and Messiah. Those are the two kids that got the blessing. All the material blessings of the earth will come to them. So they'll be rich, I guess. The final prediction for Jacob's younger son is Benjamin. His people compared to voracious, vicious predator, the Benjaminites. The first king of Israel, Saul, will be from this tribe. Then he tells his sons, don't bury me in Egypt. You fucking bring me back to my dad.
My people.
My people, don't fucking bury me here. And with his business finished, Jacob dies. Genesis 50, we're done. Joseph weeps openly, falls on his father's body, kissing his face. Death for him hits hard. Joseph orders his body to be embalmed, meaning mummified, by the Egyptian doctors. Joseph will be set about obeying his father's final wishes to be buried in Canaan. This is interesting. Although Joseph has been invested with incredible authority to the Pharaoh, he's still technically a slave. Technically. And he has to go ask Pharaoh permission. They make this a big point. He has to go ask Pharaoh permission. And they're like, well, technically, because he's still a slave. He has to go, he might not be able to go, bury his father. And he goes and he tells the Pharaoh, and the dude is like overjoyed. He's like, absolutely. I'll give you a convoy.
Like, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I'm going to give you a convoy. There's an incredible funeral procession.
Nice.
That leads back to Canaan. They stop off at a field. There's a lot of bullshit, and they spend 7 days of traditional ritual mourning. The brother thinks that with their father dead, Joseph is now enraged with them for selling him into slavery all those years ago. They think, oh, he was just holding it together because dad's still alive. Now that he's gone, he's going to be pissed at us. Again, he's not at all. Why would he? He's been very successful. Also fully understands that this is God's plan. So, why would he be mad? He goes on a long talk about how he's been blessed and this, that, and the other. He's not going to seek revenge. Everybody's happy. They spend the rest of Joseph's life summarizing, explaining his good fortune. At age 110, he sees death coming. Basically, Joseph makes his sons the head of Israel, the heads of their tribes, like his dad did. Tells him, hey, don't keep my body here. His body is embalmed and remains kept in a coffin in the possession of Israel in Egypt. And then later on, Moses, I guess, takes his bones to the promised land. And Genesis ends.
Damn.